50 out of 50, dead last. No matter how you say it, Missouri is falling behind the rest of the nation when it comes to getting those COVID-19 vaccines into people's arms. Who the state is blaming when it comes to statewide distribution.
The game is entirely logistics.
While the state works on its distribution strategy, mass vaccination sites are beginning to pop up in mid-Missouri, where and how you can sign up for your vaccine.
Will all senators now rise and raise their right hand?
Less than a week into Biden's presidency, the article of impeachment has been filed, and now senators have been sworn into Trump's second impeachment trial. We have the latest from Capitol Hill and the impending trial. This is KOMU8 News at 5.
Coverage you.
It's been a year unlike any other.
Breaking the alarming new development of that deadly mystery virus outbreak, the first case in the U.S. confirmed.
A year filled with a pandemic.
No justice, no peace.
Protests.
On the manifesto, we call it.
And a presidential election. While this year has left some of us feeling isolated, alone, and overwhelmed, the community has shown there's still light in the darkness. From encouraging chalk lyrics to a local nonprofit that makes boxes of sunshine for kids in the hospital.
If I could make even just a few children's hospital stays easier for them and their families, then it's totally worth it.
To selfless healthcare workers and people stepping up to support them.
We're not afraid to interact with our patients and do what we have to do.
It's been a tough year, so to uplift our spirits, let's shine a light on the good of 2020 in tonight's MVP special, A Year of Everyday Heroes.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU8 News starts now.
Today, Columbia Public Schools' 14-day COVID-19 tracker hit its highest rate since September, hitting the mid-80s. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight's number has hit 84.2. That's a 44-point jump from the day pre-K and elementary students went back to in-person learning. The 14-day tracker is only one of the factors going into the board's decision to bring middle and high school students back to campus. KOMU8's Alyssa Jackson has been following tonight's meeting and has updates on what way the board members are leaning tonight. And Alyssa, what can you tell us?
Yes, we're getting closer and closer to that vote, but we're still not quite there yet.
Tonight, Vice President Mike Pence says he doesn't plan to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Donald Trump from office. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us tonight. The Vice President sent this letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying that amendment should be reserved for cases of medical or mental incapacitation. Meanwhile, the House is expected to take up the impeachment resolution tomorrow morning. Okay, thanks, Kenton. In just 1 week, Columbia Public School students will head back to the classroom. Well, at least some of them. Last night, the CPS Board of Education voted to bring pre-K and elementary students back to in-person classes 4 days a week starting next Tuesday. As for older students in the district, their class styles will look a little different. Middle and high school students will use a hybrid learning model. It will split those students into two groups, one group attending in-person classes on Mondays and Tuesdays, and the second group going in on Thursdays and Fridays. District Superintendent Peter Stiebelman says students will be split up based on their last name, and Wednesdays will act as a work day for students and staff across the district.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU8 News starts now.
I was totally embarrassed this morning to hear on national news that Missouri is ranked at the bottom for vaccine distribution and getting shots into arms.
When it comes to COVID-19 vaccination distribution, Missouri is falling short compared to the rest of the nation. That's according to the New York Times. And in just the last 15 minutes, we have new information on who was pointing the finger when it comes to distribution issues. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us tonight. While some states are finding ways to get the vaccine into people's arms, Missouri is still struggling with its distribution plan. Missouri is ranked dead last in distribution. Today, KOMU8's Lauren Schwenker spoke with local health officials who, Lauren, said they were not surprised at ranking right at the bottom.
Will you shut up, man? This is so unprecedented. Pack the court. There's nothing smart about you.
Tonight marked the first night of presidential debates, and the nominees held nothing back.
And take a look here. You can see we're going to cool down as we head into the weekend.
Plus, when the pandemic hit, fewer drivers took to the roads, but car accidents have kept Highway Patrol busy. This is KOMU 8 News at 10.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
Round one is complete, and it was a knockdown dragout. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us tonight. The first presidential debate of 2020 turned into a 90-minute argument filled with interruptions and a frustrated moderator. KOMU 8's Caroline Reeve waded through all of that. Joins us now in the newsroom with a look at the issues and where the candidates stand on them. Caroline.
Emily, the two battled it out with very little debate and more interruption. The candidates discussed racial injustices in America. Here's what President Trump says about the issue that's dividing the country.
The Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
When former Vice President Joe Biden was asked about defunding the police, he said that is not his plan.
What I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance.
The candidates' running mates will debate for the first time a week from tomorrow on October 7th. Live in the newsroom, Caroline Reeve, KOMU 8 News.
Well, parts of Hawaii are under a hurricane warning today as a separate hurricane named Douglas approaches the islands. Storm surge, strong winds, heavy rain, dangerous surf, all threatening the state's shorelines. And as of this afternoon, Douglas was still a Category 1 storm, so that would make it the third hurricane in modern history to hit Hawaii. And Kenton, when I was reading through that, I was actually surprised. That doesn't happen that often in Hawaii.
Yeah, no, again, to make a landfall in anywhere, that eye wall has to go right over land. So I think that stat, right, saying 3 have hit Hawaii, that doesn't mean that there haven't been more that have been around it. I think it just means that that eye hasn't actually been over Hawaii only 3 times.
Technical.
It's very technical, for sure. But that eye has to get over just a little island. And we can look at a live picture. This is Hurricane Douglas. It is still a Category 1, has gusts still of 105 miles per hour. And again, that eye is just to the north. Let me zoom in here a little bit on satellite.
Tonight, an update to this weekend's shooting in downtown Columbia. We have now learned the victim has died and one man is in custody. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, Columbia police say the 38-year-old victim in the shooting died at the hospital. Officers identified him as Joseph Hecht from Sturgeon. Police also announced officers have made one arrest. They arrested 23-year-old Kisan McNeil for second-degree murder. The shooting happened around 1 a.m. Saturday. In a news release yesterday, officers said the victim was taken to the hospital in a personal vehicle with non-life-threatening injuries. It happened at 8th and Locust Streets. CPD is still looking for a second suspect. Officers believe it is this man here in this photo. CPD warns he is considered armed and dangerous. If you recognize or see him, do not approach him. Instead, call 911. Today, KOMU 8 talked to neighbors who live near the scene. One woman says she was shocked when she learned something like this happened so close to her apartment and Mizzou's campus. The woman didn't want to be on camera for an interview, but she says her roommates told her what happened when she woke up in the morning.
My roommates actually heard it, but I did not because I was asleep. And they heard a gunshot, but when I talked to them the next morning, they kind of just thought it was like a firework or something until they heard the sirens.
And that deadly shooting comes just before Governor Parson's special session on crime is set to start. Parson called for the session back on July 15th. That was less than 2 weeks after a double homicide over the 4th of July weekend here in Columbia. Kansas City and St. Louis have both experienced spikes in violent crime. Kansas City recently hit a 35% jump in homicides compared to 2019, with 101 homicides this year alone. And aggravated assaults with a firearm in St. Louis County are up 19% as well.
The easiest thing would be to delay all of this till a later date. But the reality of it is people are dying in the streets every day in the state of Missouri. To delay this any longer is not practical to do that. That's why I'm thankful the legislatures are coming back to do this, know the importance of it. But all of these penalties will have an effect on violent criminals, and that's the whole target of this special session. All right, thank you all very much.
And that special session is set to start tomorrow.
Virtual instruction has been a challenge, but students are learning. We are building relationships and interacting. It is not ideal, but it is working.
In-person or virtual classes? That's the question Columbia Public Schools is trying to finally answer tonight.
And we are significantly cooler than this time yesterday, but a warming trend already on the way. I'm tracking that in my first alert forecast.
Plus, COVID-19 cases increasing steadily in Cole County, which could be problematic for area hospitals. We'll explain. This is KOMU 8 News at 10.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
Happening right now, the Columbia School Board is still deciding when and if students will return to the classroom. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks for joining us tonight. The board's considering a 4-day in-person phased-in plan. We have a crew inside this meeting, but due to COVID restrictions, they're not allowed to come out at this time to brief us. KOMU 8's Avery Everett has been tracking the school board meeting remotely tonight. She joins us in our newsroom with the update.